All right, guys. So one of my favorite parts of being a political commentator is analyzing and shifting through the BS that these politicians say. And I take great pride in doing it at the highest levels when it comes to Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell, because these guys are born to finesse. Okay? They can say a whole lot without saying nothing at all, right? And that's usually what they do. However, the great thing about this time of political turmoil is that you can't necessarily get away with saying a whole lot without saying nothing anymore. Nowadays, you must pick a side, because if you don't unequivocally pick a side, then people are going to assume that you align with the enemy. So seeing Mitch McConnell in this uncomfortable zone of having to pick a side and to see him try to finesse is really fascinating. And in this speech that he gave today on the Senate floor, this is almost a classic McConnell finesse. However, I do think that he's given us some insights in terms of what the GOP strategy is going to be moving forward and kind of how they really feel about Trump and his role in the party. So I'm going to break that down for you guys. It's difficult to listen to because a lot of stuff he's talking about is just, I think, very hypocritical considering McConnell's and President Trump's relationship in the past, and the things he's talking about now. It's just like, give me a break, man. But before we get into that, my name is Greg Foreman, and you're watching A Black Conservative Perspective. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share A Black Conservative Perspective, aka a leftist worst nightmare. You can also follow me on Twitter at GForemanBCP. Let's get it. All right, guys. So I'm gonna play this clip of McConnell speaking on the Senate floor today, and give you guys my analysis on what he's saying.
The last time the Senate convened, we had just reclaimed the Capitol from violent criminals who tried to stop Congress from doing our duty. The mob was fed lies. They were provoked by the president and other powerful people. And they tried to use fear and violence to stop a specific proceeding of the first branch of the federal government, which they did not like. But we pressed on.
Okay, so what Mitch McConnell is trying to do here, he's effectively trying to distance himself and the establishment Republicans from Trump supporters. I mean, that's the honest to God truth. Because most conservatives, including myself, have unequivocally denounced the Capitol riots or protests, whatever you want to call them, right? We've denounced them. We said we don't accept violence. Violence is not the answer. There is a right way to go about making the change that you want to make, okay? I find it interesting how McConnell keeps trying to hammer down on condemning the riots when we've already had 2+ weeks of condemning it. Okay? How much more do you need to talk about this? Okay? Right? Like you've already told us what you think about the election. You've already told us. We know what your opinion is. Do you really think that coming out here and giving this type of message is going to change people's minds at this point? I think he knows it's not going to change anybody's mind. I don't think he cares about changing anybody's mind about the election at this point. I think what this is purely an attempt to get in the good graces of the Democrat Party and the liberals to try to say, listen, we might not like each other, but I'm not them. This is what this is right now. This is McConnell being as weaselly as he can be, because there's really no reason, in my opinion, for him to make this statement. It's just not. We're looking at a whole nother, month, if this impeachment trial goes through, of talking about this. And we already talked about it 2 weeks before. The fact that he makes this statement right before Chuck Schumer takes over power, presumably, I think is him trying to appeal to the Democrats. Because he knows that right now, anybody associated with Trump is going to be cut off financially. And the GOP has been under major threat to be cut off financially from the corporate world. And these political parties thrive on taking money from corporations. which is why I think that moving forward, the platform of the populist side of the GOP, I think we need to really start talking more about money and politics. If what is happening right now doesn't tell you how much influence money and politics has, I don't know what to tell you, right? If Mitch McConnell being bought and sold by China, right? We know this for a fact. This is not a conspiracy. If that doesn't open your eyes, considering how much influence that we know China has on this country and on Wall Street, I don't know what to tell you. That has to be a part of the platform. Everybody wants to talk about starting a third party, and I'm not opposed to it. However, I got questions about what exactly is going to be on that platform, because at this point, it no longer can be just whatever President Trump say, because we don't necessarily know what his role is going to be moving forward. And it looks like the GOP, it looks like they're going to try to really permanently cut him off here. In my opinion, that's what it looks like.
We stood together and said an angry mob would not get veto power over the rule of law in our nation, not even for one night.
You know, and another thing, too, is that these people fail to acknowledge that an overwhelming majority of people that was even there don't agree with the people that went inside of the Capitol. They just don't. Okay? So why is it that everybody that's associated with the president is getting smeared when most people don't agree with it? Okay, like, is it right for me to smear everybody on the left because of what Antifa does? Which, I mean, maybe it is, because the left doesn't denounce Antifa. But I can tell you the average person, right, the average probably center-left Democrat probably is not okay with Black Lives Matter protesting in the street. However, the media was failing their job and not educating their viewers, which again is evidenced by the fact that after people got smart enough to realize Trump's not at fault for this and that the Democrat Party is letting this get out of control, the Democrats started to actually suffer because of the protests and riots, because people realized, like, this is all happening in Democrat cities. They're not doing anything about it. So I think this continual smearing of everybody that support the president, especially coming from the leader of the party, is very telling about where his mind is at in reference to where the party should go.
We certified the people's choice for their 46th president. Tomorrow, President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris will be sworn in. We'll have a safe and successful inaugural right here on the west front of the Capitol. The space that President Bush...
You know, that's another thing, too, that really annoys me is all this military presence in Washington, D.C. Guys, this is the exact same stuff that the Democrats was doing with the election, right? When they said that, oh, if Trump loses, all the Trump supporters are going to go out in the street and they're going to riot and protest and they're going to destroy cities. That's why they started boarding up businesses and stuff across the country for the election. When in reality, the only people that were a threat to do something like that were the leftists if Trump won. Those were the only people that were a threat to do that. However, the media tried to frame that as, oh no, Trump supporters are the threat. And this is the exact same thing that's going on in the Capitol. They're saying, oh no, we're bringing in all these military units because Trump supporters are a threat. These guys are the most dangerous people in the world. Look at what they did at the Capitol. However, show me one event that happened in the last 8 to 9 months that came from the right that caused more destruction and violence than Antifa and BLM. Show me one outside of the Capitol. And you can argue that outside of trying to overthrow a democratic process, which obviously is like a whole nother level, right? If you take that part out of it, that's nothing compared to the violence and destruction that we've seen. The only reason that the Capitol right now, people are looking at this as like this game-changing event that revealed the face of the right, is because for so long they tried to provoke Trump supporters and they kept saying, this is who they are, this is who they are. And they never did anything. Nothing ever happened. The only people that was out destroying cities was the leftists. But see, now when this Capitol thing happens, they're milking it for all it's worth. They're milking it for 4 years worth of what they were waiting for, what they wanted to see. And what really pisses me off is to see people like Mitch McConnell going along with this. Okay, if you want to denounce Trump, fine, whatever, right? But you've already done it enough times. Now it's time for you to move forward and to have some cojones and be like, listen, what happened on the Capitol is bad. That is wrong. I denounce that. But moving forward, we got to talk about when BLM and Antifa protest, we got to bring that same energy. Y'all, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, y'all got to bring that same energy. Because we lost, 10, 12 times more lives from these BLM protests and Antifa protests than we have from this one event on the Capitol. So y'all got to bring that same energy. That's what I would do if I was Mitch McConnell right now. I'd be like, okay, I've denounced it. It's wrong. I don't support it. Now let's talk about moving forward. What's going to happen when there's another violent protest in the street from BLM and Antifa? What are we going to do? Are you guys going to use the same standard that you use for the Capitol riots? Are you going to use that on them? And you got to start doing that now. You need to do it now. Now's the time. Now's not the time to keep doing all this. Oh, man, let's keep denouncing Trump. No, you're going to lose your party. And that's what's going to happen. McConnell needs to, again, nut up and start talking about controlling all the violence.
Bush 41 called democracy's front porch. And then we'll move forward. Our work for the American people will continue as it has for more than 230 years. There are serious challenges that our nation needs to continue confronting. But there will also be great and hopeful opportunities for us to seize. Certainly November's elections did not hand any side a mandate for sweeping ideological change. Americans elected a closely divided Senate, a closely divided House, and a presidential candidate who said he'd represent everyone. So our marching orders...
So, this guy, and this is what I'm talking, this is the finesse right here. This dude is the dude that lost and basically saying, okay, since you guys are in charge now, make sure you don't forget about us. Remember, you guys represent all the American people. Remember that. Remember, you guys have to be bipartisan now. Where was this bipartisanship when basically 80 to 90% of the country wanted stimulus checks? And you said no. You single-handedly torpedoed stimulus checks, the most bipartisan thing ever. Even people on the right, that are super fiscal conservatives was like, no, I mean, this is an exception. The American people need help. You became the most hated man in the country because you didn't want to do something that was bipartisan. That Trump wanted, the Democrats wanted, the American people wanted. You and the establishment were the only people that didn't want it. Now you're trying to talk about the importance of being bipartisan. Why are you not bipartisan when Trump wanted to have infrastructure done? Guys, during the summer, I'm not sure if you guys know this, but a part of the COVID negotiations, the stimulus packages, Trump wanted to go ahead and do the infrastructure bill that he had promised. And Mitch McConnell said no. Mitch McConnell said no. Now, they're letting Biden come in, and Biden is most likely going to get his infrastructure plan passed, and Biden's going to take credit for something that Trump has been trying to do, that McConnell, who's a Republican, was blocking. Okay, this is why I have to do videos like this and break down the BS, because I pay attention to this. You might be able to fool the average person, but you can't fool me. I've seen the finesse on both sides. Pelosi, all of them. But Mitch McConnell right now, what he's doing is pathetic. If you want to restructure GOP, if you want to get rid of Trump, this is not the way to proceed. You need to truly rebuild a GOP. You need to acknowledge your own faults. You need to come out here and acknowledge, you know what? I messed up when I didn't do the $2,000 stimulus checks. You know what? I messed up when I blocked President Trump from doing infrastructure. Maybe we should have done more. Maybe we should have obstructed a little less under President Trump. Maybe we should have been more bipartisan. Maybe that would have led to Trump still being president and the Republicans still having a majority in the Senate. But see, Mitch McConnell would rather blame Trump for why they don't have a majority in the Senate, instead of looking at himself and looking in the mirror and saying, how did I contribute to this? Maybe not giving people stimulus checks, knowing that stimulus checks was probably the most important issue at the time with Georgians. me holding it up in front of everybody with the whole world watching. But see, what he'd rather do is he'd rather go after Trump and virtue signal and suck up to the Democrats. That's what he'd rather do, because he's trying to save the corporate money. This is what McConnell's doing right now.
So the American people are clear. We're to have a robust discussion and seek common ground. We are to pursue bipartisan agreement everywhere we can and check and balance one another respectfully where we must. And through all of this, we must always keep in mind that we're all Americans. We all love this country, and we're all in this together.
That's the end of that little pathetic speech, whatever you want to call it, that Mitch McConnell gave. Man. Here's the thing. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens, because Mitch McConnell, there's reports that he's trying to do some type of power sharing agreement with Chuck Schumer in the Senate. He's going to church with Biden and Pelosi and Schumer, and he's trying to be buddy. We're all in this together. We're all Americans. Make sure you don't forget about us when you're doing legislation. Don't forget that we have a voice. Okay? That's essentially what he's doing here. And he's trying to basically say, no, I'm with these guys. I'm with the Democrats. I'm like them. Again, guys, this is all about the money. This is all about the money. And like I said, guys, this guy can fool the average person, but he can't fool me. I've seen enough of it. So it'll be interesting to see moving forward here what the GOP does in reference to this upcoming Senate trial, if it happens. But, man, these next 4 years, I am going to have a lot of fun breaking down the BS on both sides. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.